You've probably heard the word degrowth, especially considering that in recent years it achieved an explosive growth. Haha. Sadly, that also means that it became a target of a disinformation campaign because some people don't read anything past the name. To quote one of its biggest proponents, Jason Hickel, it's
A planned reduction of excess energy and resource use in rich nations to bring the economy back into balance with the living world while reducing inequality and improving people's access to the resources they need to live long, healthy, flourishing lives.
but wait, you might say, a reduction? Everybody knows that it's growth that satisfies human needs, not reducing it. First, how are your needs? Do we have 10 times more housing, better jobs, accessible healthcare, and education than in, say, 19 and 60? Second off, stuff that everybody knows very often turns out to be an ideology that we're soaked in, one that degrowth researchers call growthism. Growthism is a belief that since growth was good at some point in the past, it will continue being good forever. However, nothing in the world grows forever, and everything has an optimum, which may be described by the law of diminishing returns. And this is the exact case with the global north. Although growth was quite easy and beneficial until the 70s, since the 80s it's mostly based on privatizing the commons, worsening the social safety net and labor law, and the expanding financial sector. It became growth for the sake of growth, so reducing it might refocus us on human needs. Everything becomes clear when we look at how growth is measured. Our current index, GDP, or the gross domestic product, simply measures the flow of money, and not wealth or satisfaction of needs. Say there was a small town with a railway connection, but it was deemed unprofitable, so the government moved subsidies towards connection between large cities, which generated more ticket income, and the GDP grew. So the town residents had to buy cars and gas in order to commute, and the GDP grew. Now they spend more time in traffic jams, so to make it up for their families, on the weekend they go out to a shopping mall, a McDonald's, and a cinema. And the GDP grows again. So we have people with less time, money, and satisfaction who consume more needless stuff. But the economy is doing better. This is modern growth in a nutshell. So a degrowth solution would be restoring this railway connection, which would improve the quality of life for the locals, but also lower the GDP. By the way, the lowering is just a side effect. Degrowth itself doesn't care about the GDP. It would also solve the problem of emissions, traffic jams, and resource use, reducing the carbon footprint. So what happened in this example? We've stopped obsessing over increasing the flow of money and focused on satisfying human needs. In more formal terms, instead of looking at the exchange value, we look at the use value. Not everything needs to make money. Public transport is there to move us around, hospitals are there to cure us, and schools to educate us. And when growth stops fulfilling these criteria, it becomes actively harmful. Just look at how these categories work in the US. Additionally, optimal growth, 3% a year, means that the global economy doubles every 23 years. So by the end of the century, it will be 20 times larger than in the beginning. The resource and energy use constantly grows as well, because every increase in efficiency results in either increased production or reduced price. So ultimately, increased production. Does it mean that by the end of the century we'll have 20 times more stuff, or consume it 20 times faster, or it will be 20 times better? But then we'd consume less of it, and that would reduce growth. Sadly, these are the real-world consequences of an infinite growth. Okay, but what about the poor countries? Degrowth states outright. Since there's an optimal level of growth that satisfies human needs, they definitely should be allowed to pursue it. However, they should be given autonomy in how to do it. For example, as the economist Ha Jun Chang describes, the economic strength of South Korea was built by policies like protectionism and state interventionism, not by opening a weak economy to be pillaged by a powerful international capital, as was the case in Poland in the 90s. Degrowth is still a recent idea with a varied and loose connection of groups and beliefs of different scale, from the general notion of democratization to attempts at modeling whole countries. Here we'll just focus on 5 ideas proposed by Hickel in his book Less is More. And planned obsolescence. For example, by requiring a 5-year warranty and a production of spare parts. Cut advertising, which entices us to buy needless stuff and at the same time makes us unhappy. Yeah, really. Shift from ownership to usership. For example, by creating local tool rentals for things we don't need all the time, like a drill, a mower, or even a car. And food waste. Like throwing away tomatoes that aren't round enough or buy one get one free sales. For poor countries, it means investing in transport and storage infrastructure. Scale down ecologically destructive industries like beef and the huge governmental subsidies, but also SUVs, energy inefficient housing, or air travel. The degrowth movement also focuses on work reform. A 4-day work week, job guarantee, and universal basic income would give us the peace of mind not only to take care of ourselves and our loved ones, but also to become active politically, make better consumer choices, or even cleaning up a local forest. The final aspect of degrowth is wealth redistribution and democratization. It may sound like injecting leftist ideology, but in order for a shift to renewables to work, it can't hit the poorest. Otherwise, their anger will be used by the right-wing populist who'll stop it dead in its tracks. And why democratization? Because the aforementioned sharing of tools will work completely differently in case of a local tool co-op or some kind of lawnmower Uber, which would again raise prices and cut costs. Because you see, the global energy decline will happen anyway. Yeah, we know it's being mocked by the same pundits who mocked climate change a few years ago. Call us paranoid, but we sorta don't trust them. What degrowth offers us is a chance to make this transition sooner and on better conditions, while we still have the ecological room for maneuvering. Or at least, that's one way to think that through. Hey there, it's still me, Pan N, or Mr. N, with a few announcements to close out the video. But first, we'd like to thank our guest. Some of you probably already recognize that smooth voice. Andrewism for agreeing to a little cameo in this episode and reading the Jason Hickel quote for us. He also has a short message on degrowth.
If you'd like to learn more about how such an economy might work, check out my videos on the tragedy of the commons and the library economy. Links in the description below.
But wait, that's not all. His own degrowth video, definitely longer than this one, is gonna drop in a few days or so. So subscribe to him if you haven't already, somehow, and do check out his open letter to Gen Z. We are honored to be working along someone who is such an absolute legend at what they do. And since we're on topic of being grateful, we'd like to thank our amazing patrons who are supporting our endeavors of building up the English channel. Seriously, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for every donation. It honestly helps more than you think. Oh, and a quite important point. If you're a backer and you haven't gotten your reward, please contact us. These things do happen. As for all of you who are still watching, if you liked this short episode, there's a super thanks button where if you click it, you donate a bit as well. You can also support us using the new join button below. Right, on to the announcements. So we've decided that we'll be releasing some additional translation from our Polish channel for our tier 3 backers. First off, we'll do our opinion piece on what is good and bad activism in the time of the Boomero scene. Yeah, it's a joke name, but you heard it here first, so we call dibs on this translation of the Polish dziadocen. Second thing, we'll be having a 15k plus subscribers Q&A special and another Q&A on our Kurzgesagt video, so feel free to add your own questions, since that vid seems to be exploding again and more than ever before. Wonder if that was because of the soup protest. Well, finally, I'd like to apologize if I sounded tired or bored in the video. I caught cold and it's really tough to sound good when you're trying not to cough. So send positive energy my way and remember, 1 like equals 1 prayer for my healing. That's all for today. We'll see you again next time. Bye.